Please, another round of applause for our welcoming address and keynote speakers. And may I just add that as an expatriate residing here in Qatar, I am very honored to be in a country who is very progressive in education and healthcare, as Ms. Aisha Al-Fardan mentioned. And it's really great to know that this is being done with the idea of gender equality in mind. So we would like to begin this morning's discussion with women in politics. Women have always been in politics, as history has shown us, yet we're still underrepresented in government to this day. But throughout history, you will see that women have stood strong, both young and old, to fight and step up for inclusiveness in politics. Today, our notable speakers will be touching more on this topic, on how women are already making an impact, and what more needs to be done to have inclusiveness in government. So this morning we will begin with Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Canada to Qatar, Mrs. Stefanie McCollum. Stefanie, yes. Stefanie assumed her position as Ambassador of Canada to Qatar in 2018. She is an avid traveler and has worked abroad in countries such as the United States, Romania, Egypt, and Brazil. She's married with 2 children and loves to scuba dive, as do I, so that's good to know we have a fellow diver here. She grew up in an Air Force military family and has worked for the government for over 27 years. Please join me in welcoming this morning Ambassador Stefanie McCollum.
I'll just grab this. Thank you very much, Shamara. Thank you, Doha Women's Forum, Future 318, and of course, all of the sponsors that made this event possible. I am absolutely honored to be here to speak with you today, but all the more so to be sitting among you very soon and hearing more from the speakers and panelists that are all lined up. I'm not skilled enough to have prepared graphics that are going to run behind me as I speak to you, so I just have some photos that'll be coming up soon to remind us that future generations are watching and are being inspired by women. So you'll see First Ladies, activists, Nobel Prize laureates, and even Canadian tennis stars. All inspiring future generations of girls. You can even be a Qatari Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokeswoman and be a role model, as I learned recently a few weeks ago out for dinner with Lulwala Qatar, and a little girl came up and said she was a big fan and wanted to be photographed with her. So it's happening every day. You are inspiring future generations, and I think we need to keep that up. So I'm one of 3 speakers here to talk about the importance of more women leaders in government, a more inclusive government. And while I think it's important to take a broad approach to the word inclusive and ensure it includes people of different races, religions, cultures, backgrounds, today's focus is on gender and gender inclusiveness in government. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the benefits of more women leaders, more inclusive government, because I look at this room and I think you're already believers in that concept. We know the benefits. We know it's important to raise the profile of our successes and to share information to help others, which is why we're all here today. We know, and studies have proved, that the full, meaningful participation of women in leadership and decision-making is essential to the achievement of gender equality, peace, prosperity, and accountable government. We know that women leaders help diminish the barriers that prevent women and girls from succeeding and help create more equal societies and more competitive countries. We also know, and studies have proved, that barriers in government remain. The Interparliamentary Union, which Doha hosted last year, states only 23% of parliamentarians around the world are women. UN Women, according to them as of October 2017, 11 women were serving as heads of state and only 12 as heads of government. So there's more to be done, and there are barriers to address. Before I talk about barriers, though, I kind of wanted to pause and clarify my own perspective on leadership, which can sometimes be controversial because I believe leadership is too often confused with rank or position or level in government. I believe there are and there must be female leaders at every level in government and organizations and in society. Some want to show leadership as head of HR. Some on policy analyst, maybe on a climate file. Others maybe want to provide international assistance to developing countries and make a difference in people's lives. And I think that leadership at all levels is something that we have to support and encourage, because it means we have women who are happy, motivated, and making a difference throughout government. This difference, I think, will be noticed, will be respected, and will result in less barriers in the end. So back to barriers, what are they? I think we can agree on a few big ones that cross borders. Discriminatory laws and practices, lack of access to quality education, and stereotype social cultural norms. So I'm going to talk about my own experience with the latter, with the social barriers, because I have the most experience with those. But I do want to stress, I think it's critical that laws have to come first, so that there is a legislative and a legal protection for those women who try to tackle those social barriers and bring about that change. So I was lucky enough to be born in Canada after decades of struggle by women who saw a lot of freedoms in our country when I was born. So women could vote, women could run for and had won seats in our parliament. But what still lingered, as it tends to once laws are fundamentally changed, are stereotypes and social norms that meant not all women were taking advantage of these freedoms, either because it wasn't the way they were raised, or they lacked the support from their family or their social set, or they didn't feel that they had the education to try to get those positions or be in that public eye. Sometimes they faced a lot of discrimination. Often they faced horrible barriers because they were pioneers. So that changed as I grew up and women challenged the system. I was lucky enough to be born to the parents I was. My father was the oldest and a child of divorce, which was very rare in those days. He grew up self-reliant, and he taught his 3 younger sisters to be reliant as well. He joined the military at a young age, and in Canada, young men away from their mothers for the first time, absolutely useless. So the military trained them. The military taught them how to cook for themselves, how to clean, how to iron their uniforms, how to sew buttons back on or fix holes in their socks. So my father was taught to be self-reliant, and when I came along, I wasn't his girl, I was his child, and his child would be self-reliant. So from him, I learned how to clean, load, and fire a rifle. We lived in the wilderness in Canada. I learned how to catch, clean, cook fish, how to run the lawnmower and do minor electrical plumbing repairs at home. And when I was old enough to drive, I was expected to know enough mechanics to handle a breakdown on the side of the road. So his child would be able to take care of herself. And I saw that not all my friends had this upbringing and this role model in their fathers at home. So I knew it was a little bit unusual. My mom stopped working when I was born, and she stayed home with me until I was about 8 years old. I was schooled in French, and she felt this was a better education system. And she ensured I learned and kept up 2 languages and that I did well in school. She taught me the importance of showing respect to my teachers and my fellow students. Her child would have the education and people skills to get whatever degree and whatever job she wanted. When I was old enough, when I was 9 or so, she returned to work. We moved around a lot, and she started over a lot. So she was often someone's assistant. And I would visit her at work, and I would see the respect that she had earned and she was given. These powerful military men would take time out of their schedule to talk to me and tell me how my mom was the backbone of the office and how big of an impact she had. She kept them on schedule, on purpose, and on point. In those days, I was the girl in these photos that you see here, dreaming of being an office assistant and having all that power. So most of my friends' moms didn't work. And I know she was judged for not being at home with me, but I was still proud. And here I'd like to go back to saying, I think we need to encourage women, if they are happy and they've made a choice in what they're doing. So if they want to contribute at home, we should support that and not judge that. And if they want to contribute in the workplace, we should support that and not judge that. So I was lucky enough to have access to this upbringing, but also quality education. But again, I was seeing that it was on the cusp of change. When I was in middle school, we had courses called home economics and workshop. I don't know if they have those in the variety of countries here, but home economics is where girls went to learn how to cook and sew and type. We had to type on typewriters, manual typewriters. That's how old I am. Workshop is where boys went to learn about machinery and carpentry and plumbing. But in my grade, the male shop teacher pushed to have girls in his class. And for the first year in history, we were given a choice of what class we would like to take. And of course, I decided that I wanted to take shop because I was going to be a pioneer. And the shop teacher, Mr. Schmidt, I still remember him, was so excited and so happy because he thought girls took special care. They listened, they paid attention, and they wanted to create quality products. So we had the best wood and the best tools and the best access for our projects. And the boys didn't because he said, as far as he was concerned, they just wanted to play with power tools. So he spent no time with them and all his time with us. So it was a good experience. Growing up older, university age, I remember my girlfriends were some of the first in their colleges of engineering and law. And they faced horrible adversity because they were pioneers at the time, often in tears, but they persevered and they graduated and they're very successful. And now women outnumber, as Aisha was saying, the number of boys in some of these programs, and we don't even blink. It's not a big deal. We've evolved. That change has happened. So I say I'm lucky because my experience growing up was not one of gender separation. I saw it around me, but not near me. My father, my mother's bosses, my shop teacher, these men were pioneers when they taught, supported, and encouraged the success of girls and women. Once I started my career, I drew inspiration from women and men leaders alike. I was lucky to be supported by women of influence, and it made all the difference. And I know some colleagues weren't. And so I can see the impact that that has. So my experience is why I believe women must make room at home for men to contribute, and why men must make room in the workplace for women to contribute. My experience is why I believe that once laws are in place, women must be brave and push cultural and social norms to make sure that girls have the upbringing, the education, and the support at work that they need to succeed. Governments should recruit, develop, and support on the basis of qualification and performance, and champion those they feel are deserving, even if gender makes this difficult. Women leaders need to feel they have succeeded when they have the job that they want and what they love to do, because then they will inspire and be noticed, because then they will provide opportunities to the next future of girls and women, and then we will achieve a balance for better. Thank you very much.